Alright, y'all, was up with it now. Listen, so today I got another video. It ain't gonna be too long. We're gonna get right to it. So now I'm finna start a new series on the asteroids, right? Because y'all need to understand it. Listen, I am a Vedic astrologer, but I still use well, I'm a sidereal Vedic astrologer. I still like to use a lot of those tropical elements that, like, what I'm saying, like the asteroids or the vertex and shit. I like to use all of them and incorporate them same placements over into the sidereal way of seeing things. Boy, that should be hitting, and especially with the nakshatras, all this shit. But yes, though. So now listen. So what are asteroids in the birth chart? And now you got a lot of asteroids in the birth chart. I mean, they, as you can see, all this information I got right here, they very similar to like any other place, right? They got a meaning, they got a lore, they got a story, they got an effect. We finna cover all that, but this is the basic understanding. So I got this shit right here. Then I got on the next slide in the actual signs, but grouped together, not extremely individual based. I might make a separate one on the fire signs, the water signs, the earth signs, going more in depth about that shit, right? Now let's go ahead and get to it. So now listen, in astrology, Ceres, right? You see what that shit say? This and this is what Ceres is, y'all. Listen, this is the god Ceres, right? This is the god Ceres. Scroll down, you can go look or whatever, Greek mythological god. This, this is so-called the asteroid of Ceres, right? Y'all see this shit right here? So this would be the asteroid of Ceres. Then this would be the mythological goddess of Ceres, right? So check this out. Then we come back right up over here. So now listen. So now it represents the things related to nurturing, food, fertility, and the care we give and receive, right? So it is often linked to how we care for ourselves and others, our relationships with nourishment, both physical and emotional, and our capacity to in a natal chart, what I'm saying, that can offer insight into a person's relationships with their body, food, caregiving roles, and how they experience love and comfort, right? So now that I read all that, so I'm gonna break it down for more layman's term for everybody. It's really showing how you care for people, right? So this shit kind of get like a moony or like a motherly lunar type of energy, right? Too. You see what I'm saying? But that's what it's all about. And listen, we gonna get into the mythological lore next, right? But now check this out. So Ceres myths, myth and symbolism resonate deeply in modern times, especially when exploring themes of motherhood, nurturing, grief, and renewal. Right. So this astral asks us to reflect on how we care for ourselves and others, and how we deal with the natural cycles of loss, separation, and healing. Right. It also speaks to the cyclical nature of life. Just as the seasons change, so do our emotional states and our relationship. This should sound like Cancer, to like the moon, to like the fourth house. It sounds like a very motherly energy, right? That's what Ceres is all about. But now let's get into the myth before we cover over here, right? For now, the myth of Ceres, right, also known as Demeter in Greek mythology, is one of the most poignant, poignant and significant stories in ancient mythology, right? So now, Ceres is the Roman goddess. Oh, hold on, get that off. Okay, now Ceres is the Roman goddess of agriculture, grains, crops, fertility, and motherhood, and her mythology is tied to the season, right? Particularly the loss and return of her daughter, right? So what can we see already just from this shit period, right? Before we even get to the actual things, right? Loss, renewal, returning. You see what I'm saying? It's very cyclical, very wheel like, right? So now the myth of Ceres and Persephone, right? I think that's how you say her name in Greek, right? So now Ceres and Persephone were very close. Now, Ceres was a loving and attentive mother to Persephone, right? Her only daughter. But Persephone, also known as Proserpina in the Roman myth, however you want to say it, was a beautiful young goddess who was cherished by her mother, right? So now, the abduction of Persephone, right? One day, Persephone was picking flowers in the field. The earth suddenly split open, and Hades, the god of the underworld, emerged in his chariot, right? He abducted Persephone and took her to the underworld to be his queen. Y'all understand that shit? So this shit got some kidnapping, right? So pain after loss, pain after grief, real shit. So now listen. Ceres' grief and search, right? So now, distraught by the loss of her daughter, Ceres wandered the earth in search of Persephone, right? Refusing to let the crops grow, causing a famine across the land, right? Her grief was so profound that the earth itself stopped producing, right? So you see how this is kind of like that more. You see how this shit can manifest as a very negative aspect, right? But in my future videos, we're gonna talk about how this shit can be way more positive and not as fucked up as you know what I'm talking about as it can be. You know what I'm talking about? So now the deal with Hades, right? So now, eventually, Ceres learned from Zeus, the king of the gods, that Persephone was alive but had eaten seven pomegranate seeds in the underworld, right? Because of this, Persephone was bound to spend a part of each year in the underworld with Hades and a part on Earth with Ceres. And I believe it was like 6 months on and 6 months off, right? This shit get serious, y'all. So listen, we already, man, listen. Now let's go to the key themes. So now the key themes, right? Nurturing and caregiving, right? Ceres represents maternal energy and the ability to nurture both ourselves and others, right? This can show up as the way someone cares for their loved ones, the way to approach parenting, or even the ability of emotional support in times of need. And remember, y'all, when it comes to these signs, right? You got three signs for each of the four elements, right? So in a group dynamic for each element like water, fire, they are all gonna have a very similar attribute to when they, you know what I'm saying, showing like, you know what I'm saying, they nurturing and caregiving, right? You know what I'm saying? Aries might be a little bit more bold, Cancer might be a little bit more truly emotional, Taurus might be a little bit more stable and practical, right? You know what I'm talking about? And but in not only just them, but they same but the other signs in their respective element too, right? However, when we get into each of the actual signs, right? Especially with the house placements. So now, the way Capricorn will nurture, it'll be practical, but it's not going to be like how a Taurus will nurture. The same way Sagittarius might nurture, might not be how Leo might nurture, but it's still going to have that kind of fiery energy to it, but it's just different ways, right? So now, motherhood and the feminine, right? So Ceres has a strong connection to the motherhood and feminine energy. It is not necessarily tied to only biological motherhood, but also the act of mothering, right? Including emotional caregiving, providing comfort, you know what I mean, creating safe spaces for others to grow and thrive, right? Food and nourishment, right? So now Ceres has a symbolic link to food, nutrition, and the body, right? This asteroid's placement in the chart can indicate someone's relationship with food, dieting, eating habits, or even, you know what I'm talking about, how one may find comfort or emotional security through food. Yeah, let me go back to what. Yeah, you see how she won't let the crops grow. Yeah, and that's the only way they were eating back then. She now self care and boundaries. Right now, pay attention to that one. Ceres also governs how we care for ourselves, especially in terms of establishing healthy boundaries. Right. So all in all, let's go before we get into the basic overall viewpoint of the science. So what is this? So what could this represent in the birth chart? Right, how you take care of people, how you deal with loss, right? You know what I'm talking about? And this shit can also, you know what I'm talking about? This shit can also, cause like right here to deal with Hades. This could be making difficult choices that you don't want to make in order to get a little bit of what you want, right? So this dealing with things of manipulation, loss, and motherhood off top. So that's what it can represent in your birth chart, how you care, how you deal with grief about what you care about, right? You know what I'm saying? Especially in the sign and the house that it's in, right? So now let's go to over here. So now listen, when we got Ceres and fire signs, basically Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, nurturing style, bold, active, and passionate, right? They kind of in your face ass energy, real talk. Key themes: initiative, leadership, and caregiving. You know what I'm saying? Energetic expression of care and a drive for growth and independence. These are like emotional expression, direct, enthusiastic, sometimes impatient. It can be shown through action rather than patience. Like, come on, hurry up, man. Listen, this you gotta do this, you gotta do this. Then they're yelling at you to take care of yourself. You know some of the motivational coaches, they be yelling at you in your face, talking crazy as hell. They be caring, but they be on your ass about shit. You like, hold up, man, you a little bit too much in that mug. But some of them do be caring though. They just expressed it in that shit in a very aggressive, bold, in your face, dynamic ass, yeah, type of, you know what I'm talking about, aspect, right? And in my future videos, I'm probably gonna do each of the zodiac signs. So it might be four different videos with Aries, Leo, Sagittarius, then Taurus. You know what I'm talking about? Might in groups, right? So now, when you got Ceres inside the Earth signs, right? Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, nurturing style off top, practical, grounded, and stable, right? So now. Key themes: tangible support, security, and providing structure. Nurturing is often expressed through material comfort, organization, and steady care. Emotional expression, focus on providing stability and practical care, sometimes at the expense of emotional expressiveness. This is for somebody like, man, listen, I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost everything, man, I don't know what to do. So a lot of times when people go to people for nurturing, we want them to be just as emotional as we are back, right? However, with these earth signs, like they're more practical. They be like, lost your house? Okay, well listen, I'll give you some money. Well, lost your house? Okay, well you need to go down to Social Security office file for this, and you need to get on a food stamps. You need to do this. It's gonna be more. See that they're telling you things that can help you. They're just not saying the shit in the most emotionally expressive way. Now that can make a lot of people think they don't care, but we got to understand, y'all. Listen, we got these different signs and different planets and different aspects for a reason. Everybody is not going to think and behave exactly like you, right? So that's why we have to understand each other, right? You know what I'm talking about? So it's good to dibble and dab and learn, you know, how the other elements work. Because now I know they might act like this, but sometimes you need the emotional, you know what I'm talking about, communication aspect to really get through a person. Real talk. Some people, the practical shit is good, but some people need that deep inner emotional massage. I'm just keeping this shit real. So now when we go to the air signs, right? Ceres and air signs, right? Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, right? So the nurturing style, intellectual, communicative, you know what I'm talking about, and social, right? Key themes: nurturing through ideas, conversations, fostering relationships, emphasis on mental stimulation and social harmony, right? Emotional expression, nurturing through mental engagements, you know what I'm talking about, social connection and promoting balance, may be more detached and emotional. So how could that look? Oh, you depressed? Let's go to a party. Let's go to a banquet. Let's go shopping. Let's go. You know what I'm talking about. And then not only that, they might want to intellectualize, so they can intellectualize your problems, right? Now, air signs can be detached too, especially the Gemini and Aquarius. They can Libra might want to hear what you're gonna say more. The reason I say Libra is because Libra rule the natural seventh house of relationships, right? So Libra energy is Libra primary focus is about, you know what I'm talking about, coming together and harmonizing with somebody. So Libra probably give you some more, I guess you can say, sensitive advice. The reason I say that shit is because it is. Libra still ruled by Venus, and where Venus is exalted at? Pisces, which is still a watery sign. Where is Saturn exalted at? Libra, rule Aquarius in Vedic astrology. Libra still masculine. Where is Mercury exalted at? It's exalted inside of Virgo, right? And Virgo became feminine. Shit, Virgo is very analytical and non-emotional. The Virgo gonna be looking at it like, well, you should do this. My Virgo might chastise your ass. I ain't gonna cap. So, now, Ceres and water signs, right? So now, it's Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces, nurturing style, emotional, intuitive, and deeply compassionate, right? Key themes: deep emotional connection, healing, and empathy. Nurturing is often tied to the emotional security, support through crisis and spiritual care. Emotional expression, right? Profound depth and sensitivity, often expresses in caregiving and in intuitive about others' needs, right? So this is the one that's gonna really give a fuck. This is water signs. If they, especially if they got a water moon with this placement too, or a water ascendant, they gonna really give a fuck about what you going through. They ain't gonna cap because the whole thing was about nurturing and emotions and this and this right here just kind of sum that's all that shit up. So yes, y'all listen. So now this was just a little quick video to give y'all the insight what's going on. Next, I'm gonna be doing the fire signs, and after I do a video about them, I'm gonna do the earth signs, and I'm trying to give y'all examples of how this shit can manifest and actually look in real life, right? But other than that, follow me on TikTok, Revelation Kain, Instagram, rexkainn with two N's, Facebook, Inferno with two O's, Rex with two X's. And just let me know if y'all want birth chart readings. I got hella reviews. I got all affordable prices. Until then, I will holler at y'all as later. Peace.